upon a steep hillside, where the wind whispered through tall grass and the sky stretched wide and clear. There lived a poor man with his 3 sons. His only treasure was a small meadow perched on that hill, a meadow that fed his animals and kept his family alive through harsh seasons. Beside it stood a simple barn where he stored his precious hay. But something strange had begun to happen. For 2 years in a row, on the night of St. John's Eve, the meadow was left untouched at sunset, only to be found completely eaten down to the bare earth by morning. Not a blade of grass remained. No footprints, no signs, no explanation. Just silence and loss. The man grew troubled. He could not afford to lose his hay again.
This year, we must put an end to this. One of you must go up to the meadow and keep watch through the night. We must find out what creature is doing this.
The eldest son, strong and confident, stepped forward first.
I'll go. There's nothing on that hill that can scare me.
That evening, as the sun dipped behind the mountains, he climbed the hill and settled himself in the barn. The air grew cool, and the world fell quiet. Soon enough, he stretched out in the hay and drifted into sleep. But deep in the night, something stirred. A low rumble rolled through the ground. At first, it was distant like thunder far away. Then it grew louder. The earth began to shake beneath him. The barn creaked. The hay shifted, and the hillside trembled as if something enormous was approaching. The eldest son jolted awake, heart pounding. The rumbling grew into a roar. The ground shook harder and harder. Fear took hold of him. Without waiting another moment, he leapt to his feet and ran down the hill as fast as he could, not daring to look back. He didn't stop until he reached home, breathless and pale. The next morning, they climbed back up to the meadow once again. It was completely bare. Not a single blade of grass remained. The man sighed heavily.
It's just as before.
Another year had passed, and still the mystery remained unsolved. When the next St. John's Eve came around, the man gathered his sons once more.
This cannot go on. We are losing everything. One of you must go again, and this time you must stay, no matter what happens.
I'll go this time. I won't run like he did.
So that evening, he made his way up the hill, climbed into the barn, and lay down among the hay, determined to prove his courage. The night passed quietly at first. But as the hours crept by, the same dreadful sound returned. A deep, rolling rumble shook the earth louder than before. The ground quaked violently, as though the hill itself might split apart. The barn groaned under the strain. The second son's bravery began to crumble. His heart raced, his hands trembled. The noise grew louder, closer, more terrifying than anything he had ever known. And just like his brother before him, he lost his nerve. With a cry, he jumped up and fled into the darkness, running as fast as he could down the hillside, never once looking back. By morning, the meadow was gone again. stripped clean, and still no one knew what creature came in the night. The year after, when St. John's Eve came once more, it was finally the turn of the youngest brother to guard the meadow. The brothers laughed the moment they heard it. Cinderlad stood quietly near the hearth, his clothes dusty with ash from the fireplace, while his two older brothers mocked him loudly.
You are the perfect one to watch the hay. Yes, you've never learned anything except sitting among the ashes warming yourself like an old cat. He'll never dare to go to the meadow. He sits by the fire all day like a coward.
But Cinderlad did not argue. He simply smiled faintly and said nothing at all. When evening drew near and the sky began to darken behind the mountains, he quietly left the cottage and made his way toward the lonely meadow on the hillside. The wind blew softly through the tall grass as he climbed the hill. Soon he reached the barn and settled himself inside among the hay. For a while, all was peaceful, but after about an hour, a low rumbling began. The barn creaked softly. The ground trembled beneath him. The sound was deep and strange, rolling through the earth like distant thunder.
Well, if it gets no worse than that, I can manage to stand it.
For a little while, the night became still again. Then, suddenly, another rumbling came. Louder, closer. The earth shook so violently that the hay flew through the barn like leaves in a storm. Dust rained down from the wooden beams above him. Still, Cinderlad did not run.
Oh, if it gets no worse than that, I can manage to stand it.
But then came a third rumble, and this time the whole hillside seemed ready to split apart. The barn groaned and shook so fiercely that Cinderlad believed the walls and roof would collapse upon him. The earth roared beneath him like a living thing. Then everything stopped. The shaking vanished. The roaring died away, and all around him the night became as silent as death. Then suddenly, from outside the barn door, he heard a strange sound. Chewing, slow, heavy chewing. Cinderlad rose quietly and crept toward the barn door, which stood slightly ajar. Carefully, he peered outside. And there, standing in the moonlight, was the most magnificent horse he had ever seen. The creature was enormous, strong, fat, and shining with beauty. Its coat gleamed like polished copper beneath the pale moonlight. Upon its back rested a splendid saddle and bridle, and beside them hung a full suit of knight's armor made entirely of bright copper that glittered like fire. Cinderlad stared in amazement.
So it is you who has been eating our hay.
But instead of running away, the boy acted quickly. He pulled out his steel for striking fire and threw it over the horse. At once, the mighty beast became perfectly tame. It stood still and gentle as though it had belonged to him forever. Cinderlad smiled. Then he mounted the great copper horse and rode away through the dark hills to a secret place known only to himself. There he tied the horse safely beside hidden rocks and trees. Afterward, he returned home quietly before sunrise.
Hey, you! Did the sounds get you too?
I stayed there until sunrise, and I saw nothing. I heard nothing. God only knows what frightened the two of you so badly.
We will soon see whether you guarded the meadow properly or not.
So together they climbed the hillside, and there the grass stood untouched, long, thick, perfectly green. Not a single blade had been eaten. The brothers could hardly believe their eyes. When the next St. John's Eve arrived, neither of the older brothers dared to watch the meadow again.
For this night, one of you must go to the meadow and keep watch through the night.
The memory of the terrible earthquakes still haunted them, but Cinderlad willingly climbed the hill once more. And again, the night unfolded just as before. First came the rumbling, then the shaking earth, then a second earthquake, and finally a third so violent that the whole barn nearly flew apart. But Cinderlad stayed, and when the night suddenly fell silent once more, he again heard the sound of chewing outside the barn. Quietly, he crept to the door. This time, an even greater horse stood outside. It was larger and more magnificent than the first, with a shining silver saddle and bridle upon its back. Beside it rested a complete suit of silver armor, so bright and beautiful it gleamed like moonlight itself.
Oh, so you are the one eating our hay tonight.
Again he threw his fire steel over the horse, and again the mighty creature became gentle and still. Cinderlad rode the silver horse away to the secret place where he had hidden the first. When he returned home, his brothers mocked him just as before.
I suppose you watched the meadow wonderfully again?
Well, so I did.
And when they climbed the hill the next morning, the meadow stood untouched once more, still thick, still green, still perfect. Yet the brothers only grew more jealous. Then came the third St. John's Eve. By now, the older brothers would not go near the meadow at all. Nothing could persuade them. But once again, Cinderlad climbed the lonely hill and entered the barn. That night, the earthquakes were worse than ever before. The first shook the ground fiercely, the second nearly shattered the barn, and the third hurled Cinderlad from one side of the barn clear to the other. For a moment, he thought the entire hillside would collapse. Then, suddenly, silence. After lying still for some time, he once again heard chewing outside the door. Slowly, carefully, he crept forward, and there stood the greatest horse of all. It was larger, stronger, and more beautiful than the others combined. Its coat gleamed dark and powerful beneath the moonlight, and the armor beside it shone magnificently. Quickly he threw his fire steel over the horse's mane. Immediately the beast stood still as stone. Cinderlad mounted it and rode it away to the hidden place where the other two horses waited. When he returned home, his brothers mocked him once more, saying he looked half asleep and useless as ever.
Look at him! He's scared of his own shadow!
Go and look at the meadow yourself.
And when they climbed the hill that morning, The grass stood tall and thick once again, as beautiful as ever.